So go ahead and create a new project. For me, I call this project Play Media. You can call whatever you want. So because we're going to be playing something, so in this case, a sound or a music file, we will need to add the actual raw file. So inside of our res here, right click, say new. I'm going to go to add Android resource directory. Click that. And here inside of values, I'm just going to call this raw like this. And notice the moment you click resource type, we have all these options. What we want is indeed raw, because anything that is MP3 or a music file or sound file, we put inside of raw, as well as videos and so forth. So you do that, and just go ahead and say OK. And voila, now you have this raw file or directory. So I already have the MP3, which you will have access to. So I'm going to go ahead and drag from my folder and add it inside of raw. So this is going to happen. Just say OK. Okay, so we took and put it all inside here. Very good. So we have our Watch Me MP3, which we're going to be playing in our application here. All right, so I'm going to create a very simple user interface here. So let's go to, in fact, our activity main there. I'm going to get rid of all of this. We don't need that. Save that. In fact, we can go to design if we wish to do so. Make this a little bit larger. Let's put a button right in the middle of our screen, if I can find it. There we go. And we're going to add our constraints. Let's add this constraint vertically as well. Very good. So there we go. It is indeed in the middle. So the title, let's go create a resource here. New string. I'm going to call this play underscore button. Play like this. Okay, there we go. Now it says play. And because it's a button, we're going to add an ID. Let's say play button like that. That's very good. So that's all we have for now. All right, so we have our user interface here, a very simple one. Let's go back to our main activity. So here we're going to instantiate our media player. So I'm going to go and say private media player. Okay, like this. Call this media player. And while we're here, I'm going to say private button and play button like that. And inside of on create here, we're going to instantiate our media player. So media player is equal to new media player such. And then I'm going to use the media player, and I'm going to go ahead and call the media player dot create, because we need to create the actual media player. So in this case here, using an analogy, we are creating the actual radio, which will be responsible for playing, right? So to create that, we have to pass the context. So in this case, we're going to main activity.this, or just pass this if we wish to do so. And now we have to also pass where we're going to go and find the media that needs to be played. We say r dot raw dot and get watch me. Okay, very good. So now we have our media player, the actual radio, so with all the things that it needs to play our music, our sound. It is just a matter of fact of start playing it. But what we need to do, we actually want to play when our play button is activated. So I'm going to say play button here, set it up. Is equal find by ID, r.id.play button. I'm going to set on click listener here. So play button dot set on click listener. There we go. So we have on our click listener here on click. So this is where we're going to play our music. But it's very important for us to check things first before we play, because our media player here potentially could be already playing. So I'm going to say if media player that is playing, in fact, if that's true, I need to go ahead and stop it, right? That makes sense. Users the option to start again. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, actually, I'm going to add another method inside of our class main here. It's going to be public void pause music. All right, you'll see what we're going to do here. And I'm going to create another one here. Public void play music. So what we're going to be doing here is very simple, because if you look at our user interface, we have only one button. So I'm going to dynamically change the status or the title of this button depending whether the music is playing or is paused. So the first thing they come in and there's nothing real playing, they hit play, we're going to change this to say pause so that the user knows that, okay, something is playing now, of course, and then if they want to pause, they click that button. So we're just going to use one button and do all of that changing dynamically. So going back to our main activity here, I'm going to start with the pause music. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to check again, make sure before we do anything always is to check if we actually have a media player. Okay, so that is just very defensive, I should say, defensive programming. So I'm going to say if media player is not equal to null, because we don't want to be pausing something that is null, that just makes no sense. I'm going to go ahead and say media player dot call the pause method. So at this point here, we are taking the radio and click the button pause. All right, very good. And when that happens, I want to say play button. I'm going to set the text, right, to say what? Play, because at this point here, the music player is paused, which means we want to make sure that the play button text or the title of our play button says play, so users know that they can actually go ahead and play it. Let's go ahead and extract that. So extract the string, play text like this. Very good. All right. All right. So we're going to do the same thing for the play music method. I'm going to say if media player is not equal to null and say media player dot play. Well, there's no play in our media player, which is very strange because you would think, well, media player, play button. Nope, there is no such thing. There is the start method. You ask me why they've decided to not use the play instead. They use start. I don't know. That is one of those things that we just are stuck with. Okay, very good. So media player.start is the same as media player.play to start playing the music or the sound. And once we are playing, right, we need to change our button text to say what? Well, we need to make it to say pause, because at this point here, it is playing, right? So I'm going to say play button.set text. It has to say pause. Very good. So I need to go ahead and extract this as well. Pause text. There we go. This media play is looping. That should say is playing. You probably saw that. We don't want is looping. So in this case here, if media player is playing, we actually need to do what? We're not going to call the play music because it's already playing. Well, we need to call is the pause music method. Makes sense because it's playing, and then we just make sure when they click, we call pause music method, which indeed is going to make sure that the player exists, and in which case you're going to go ahead and pause our player, so no more playing music, and set the text button to play again, because users are going to be able to click on the button again because it says play, and they can continue playing, right? So in this case here, else, if it's not playing, if it's doing whatever it is, we can just go ahead and say play music. Go ahead and save and give it a run. And right away, we see that we have build failed. Let's see what's happening. I know exactly what's happening, but let's go ahead and look. It says here that Android resource play media source error with it's not valid file based. It's not a valid file based resource name character. Okay. It says here file-based resource names must contain only lowercase. This is very important, folks. So whenever we are adding our raw files inside of our res files here, there is something we need to follow. This is wrong, right? Because we have uppercases here. So this is not good. So what we need to do, we need to change this to lowercase and use underscore. And you can see that this way of naming our variables or naming our resources is the same throughout the entire Android ecosystem, right? For files or resources, everything is lowercase and underscore to divide the words. Okay, so it makes sense. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just remove this, put somewhere else, and then I'm going to change it without you seeing. I'm going to just put lowercase w and lowercase me like this, and I'm going to go ahead and delete Oh, it's all gone there. And I'm going to put it back. So I'm going to click this and put it back there. Say OK. You'll notice that now it's lowercase w and lowercase m. So this should work at this point. Of course, we have a few errors here because this no longer exists. So I'm just going to go say dot. There we go. So we've changed everything. Everything is good. It's always nice to go to build and clean project, or you could say rebuild project, but I like to clean it first. And then let's try again. Give it a run. Hopefully everything works fine now. Okay, it's good. Installing. And voila. Let's see, take a look if this works. I'm going to hit play. There we go. You can hear that. Very nice jam. Pause. Hit paused. So it starts off exactly where we paused. Pause here. We can keep going. Quite like this song. Very good. So this is indeed working. All right. Now there's other kind of files you can play using the media player. There's actually a list if you go to the android.developer.com and just type in media player. You'll see they give you all of the lists of files that you can actually play here. Okay, but MP3 seems to be the most available, the most popular file format. Obviously, that would be the first preferable one. But there are, of course, other formats, sound formats or file formats you can also play. Now, because media player here, it's very easy to work with, as you can see. It doesn't take much, really, right? But with that, there's also other responsibilities that we must not forget that we have as developers, which is every time we are importing, every time we are taking files or using MP3 files or any raw file, we need to make sure that we delete or we get rid of those resources when we are done with them. So hopefully you know where I'm going with this, which means at some point in our life cycle, activity life cycle, we must do some cleaning up. So I can come at the bottom here somewhere, say Command N. I can go ahead and override a few methods. I can look here on destroy, for instance. So when we are destroying our activity here, what do we want to do? I'm going to go ahead and say if media player is not equal to null. Okay, you notice we do the same thing all this side. Notice we always check. I'm going to say media player dot. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and pause it, and then I'm going to say media player dot release. This will release from memory, so we no longer have our media player lingering in memory, which is a very good thing, right? So there we go. So we are able to destroy everything when we are leaving our activity. Again, you can see the power of understanding the activity lifecycle and how we can use activity life cycles to make our applications even better. All right, I'll see you in the next video.